All right, Jess, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you being a part of the Bravo video series. So thank you very much.
No
I think this
problem.
is going to be super inspiring and helpful for my clients because I know, as you know, everybody is struggling a little bit at this time of trying to. I'm sure they all feel like they have sea legs. They're trying to find their way in the world right now and what this
Exactly.
totally means. So what I thought, just tell me, so you're CEO and co-founder of Two Smart Girls. Tell me how this all began and why you started down this path.
Oh, I love this question. As the name implies, there are two of us, and my partner, Christy Metcalf, is based in Dallas, and I'm here in Colorado Springs. And this really came about because of a very pivotal phone call. We call it the $54,000 call that happened in 2017. So, Christy and I, a little background, we had both worked in corporate. We were both in leadership development, corporate training, coaching, that sort of thing, and owned our own independent companies. And in 2017, we received a contract. We earned a contract to go do leadership training in Ethiopia for a major Ethiopian company.
Oh my
And
gosh, wow.
yeah, it was, I mean, honestly, such an amazing experience. And I mean, you can imagine, I mean, just culturally,
Yeah.
developmental kind of things, lots of that great learning there. But everything came down to our final call. So, over the course of about 6 or so months, we were there for like 2.5 to 3 weeks at a time. And we were gearing up for our final trip. And less than 24 hours before we were supposed to leave, we received an email from the Ethiopian company, and they said, we have to cancel this trip. And as contractors, we were like, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do? We have this gaping hole now in our calendar. There's no revenue and all this stuff. And Christy and I went back and forth. We were like, what should we do? And finally, we decided, oh, we should look at our contract and see what it says. And as we dug in, we had this cancellation clause that said 2 weeks notice or full pay. And then we went back and forth of, do we exercise this clause? I mean, and there was so many, like, so much mind drama around this. Like,
Yeah.
what happens if we cancel? What if we hold them to it? Are they going to want to work with us? Are we going to finish out the contract? It's a developing country. This is a US grant that's providing. I mean, there's just so much stuff. And, finally, this will just crack you up. My husband and actually her husband, ironically, both said the same thing. They're like, what is wrong with you guys? No man is debating whether or not to exercise the clause in the contract. They just do it. They've already invoiced and they've moved on, right? But here we were, like, all drama. And, she had owned her business for about 18 years. I had owned mine for about 8. And we finally just said, okay, you know what? We need to do this. And so we got on the phone and we're talking, talking, talking. And the guy said, so you're telling me that you think you should get paid for work that you did not do. And I said, yeah, I think you should pay us because that's what's in the contract. And he goes, okay, I just needed to hear you ask for it. And here we were, like, completely spun up over whether or not to ask for it. And he's like, you just need to ask for it. And,
Mm-hmm.
long story short, we got paid for that. We ended up and finished out the contract, but we kept coming back to this experience over and over. We're just really, ruminating over it. And it really came down to,
Mm-hmm.
we had both been business owners for a lot of years. We had both been
Mm-hmm.
very successful in the corporate world. And if we were feeling like this, how many other women were feeling like this? How many other
Mm-hmm.
women were questioning whether or not, you know, they should ask for it, if they should hold firm to their value? And so we ended up meeting a couple months after everything was over. And we just said, how can we partner together? Because we independent businesses, we weren't really partnered except because of this contract, although we'd been friends for a lot of years. And so we ended
Yeah.
up, basically starting with two businesses, and we walked out with one, and here we are 2 years later, really focused on helping female professionals, and I would say relatively early stage entrepreneurs, transition out of corporate, build sustainable businesses really so that they can have more flexibility, freedom, and fulfillment in their life.
Mm. I'll have to say that kind of hits a nerve.
Yeah.
And you're right. And basically what I mean by that is the guys were right on what they said. I think as women, I'm not saying all, but the majority don't have the confidence enough to feel like they deserve to hold true to their word, their contract, whatever it is. So you're right. We second guess ourselves of like, oh, I'm a woman. They're not going to take me seriously. Therefore, I'll just back down.
Yeah. And we don't, we never even get to the point where we ask, right? We've already talked ourselves out of it. And, we have to honor the fact that there are actual like, cultural and structural barriers that
Yeah.
contribute to this.
Yes.
But women as a whole do themselves a disservice here, right? We don't acknowledge our own accomplishments. We don't leverage our network. We don't hold our space and our value. And, that really is the mission of the work that we do. We want every woman to fully own her own worth, her own value, so that she can build a life that she really loves, whether that's as an entrepreneur, whether that's someone who's in some kind of professional environment, whether she's a stay-at-home mom. We want women to really be able to own their own story and really design it and write the ending for themselves every single time.
That's awesome, because I think every woman, like you're saying, needs to hear it and give themselves permission.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, permission to move forward and exercise their right to stick to their word.
Yeah.
So through this period of time right now, Jess, here we are talking about confidence, and something that can really throw your confidence in a tailspin is being insecure. We're right now in a very different world of people feeling very insecure, and you know how that can kind of permeate out to not just you, your family, your loved ones, your coworkers. So knowing that, what are you finding just on personally for yourself and those that you've already had talks with, as far as conversation with, of how to support them?
So, this is an interesting question, because where we are now is very different than where we were a month ago and even 2 months ago. And what I found is because of the uncertainty, right, there's a ton of fear in there. And that makes sense, because we like to have, as humans, we like to have clarity about our path forward. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is really something that we talk about a lot with our clients, which is you have a choice. At every turn, you have a choice on how you want to think about things, how you want to feel about those things. And what I've said from the very beginning of all of this uncertainty is we can choose to think about this as a gift or a curse. So, we work with a lot of business owners, and, there was obviously tons of uncertainty for business owners. You know that just as well as I do. And for us, and what we've seen is when you're in the space of uncertainty, it can, if you choose to think about it in a certain way, can lead to so much creativity. And, when I think about my family, for example, I'm an extrovert. I like being around people, but I have really loved this space to just be. Now, that doesn't mean that we're without stresses. That doesn't mean there's no drama. I've got 2 kids. They're fighting all the time. But it's, but it has given us a chance to really reconnect as a family. And I think that's partly because the way we viewed the whole thing has been a gift. Right now, if I had had a completely different perspective, that would totally have changed the dynamic of what these last 2 months have been. So I think, for a lot of people, that fear it's of course rooted in the uncertainty, but you get to decide. And when you choose and when you put a stake in the ground about how you want to think about it, how you want to feel about it, then it causes you to take different sets of actions. And so for me, and what I see with our clients, when we have embraced this mindset, it has
Mhm.
really made all the difference.
Mhm. I totally agree with you. I know there's different personalities, and everybody takes information that comes to them in a little bit different. I've been the type of person that I love a challenge.
Hmm.
So even in insecurity, I look at it as a challenge as well too. So we can either shrivel up and die, or we can rise to the occasion and say, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Are you kind of finding pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that it's interesting, right? With that creative spirit comes all kinds of opportunities. So, we have some women in our community who have businesses that are like physical entities, like they need to be done in person. But there's always opportunities for creativity, and it's been really fascinating to watch a person go from what was their plan A, bread and butter, to plan D, E, and F, and really figuring out that wow, there's some opportunity here. And that it's not about going back to the old normal, right? It's about how can I take what I just discovered in DE and F and bring that forward to be part of my new strategy. So
Mhm.
for me, I just see it as so much opportunity to leverage and be creative, and to see what comes, right? Not all of it's going to work,
Right.
right?
Right.
But when you have that mindset of, okay, we're going to see what comes, and we're going to do what we can with it, and we'll take what works and we'll tweak over and over and over again. I mean, it's just the possibilities are endless. And so, I found that our clients are really embracing this idea of being creative and stepping up to the plate. I'm not a huge fan. I've grown tired of the word pivot, like probably most business owners. But I mean, there really is something to that, right? Really being able to embrace what comes and
Yeah.
try to get ahead of it as much as you can.
Yeah. So this whole social distancing,
Mm.
um, and there's, I mean, I feel it when I'm out and about, and this whole thing with the mask.
Mm.
You first of all, you're not being close to people around you because you're doing the social distancing, and then you throw the element in there of the mask,
Hmm.
and it's hard to see, the expression of
Hmm.
somebody's face.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? And what would you suggest to those that are feeling the distance,
Yeah.
of just society in general, of, the thinking about supporting, and then you've got this, it almost feels like a gap.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thought on all of that?
So, you've probably heard the distinction between physical distancing and social distancing. And I do think that's really important because, in some ways, I feel more socially connected because we've had to be much more intentional, right? It's easy to kind of get in your own bubble when everything is normal. So in this case, I have really had to make a mind shift of, okay, I'm not distant from others socially, I'm distant from them physically. Now, as an extrovert, I love being around people. I love the actual physical connection. So, I totally hear what you're saying about the mask, because early on, I found myself feeling really, particularly around the grocery store, feeling very stressed. I would go
Mm-hmm.
in, right? There's just like this kind of weird toxic energy. Everybody's is scared. They've got the mask, the whole nine yards. And I had to make a mental shift, a very conscious choice to say, okay, this is not something that I have to fear. This is, I'm choosing to wear this mask to help protect others, because it's the right thing to do as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made that shift in my own mind, it really made a difference about how I felt when I went out in public and I saw people wearing masks. And the other part of that is I consciously chose to be more intentional about smiling. So while you can't see my,
Smiling with your eyes, right?
right, while you can't see like this, you can't
Yeah.
see that smiling, you can see it in my eyes, and making eye contact. And, that is the thing that for me has really helped close the gap, right? It's not perfect, but it's the time that we're in. And again, it comes back to that choice, right? That mindset that you go in, you're like, okay, this is what we're doing right now. I can't change the situation, but I can embrace what I can do. And for me, that means wearing a mask. It means smiling. Means making eye contact, and it means staying in relationship with people. So, our family, we've been in Colorado now for about 4 years, and my in-laws live in the northern part of Colorado Springs, and every Sunday we have family dinner. So when all this hit, we
Oh,
were
nice.
purposely segregating from them, wanted to keep them safe. And we said, okay, but we have to have family dinner, right? Family dinner is a part of our rhythm. And so we started doing virtual family dinners. My mother-in-law, I both celebrated our birthdays during March and April. We had birthday celebrations on Zoom. We played family games over Zoom. So, to me, it's not so much about being socially distant or socially isolated, although I know that that's true for some people.
Yes,
For us, it has
yes,
been, how can we close the gap even though we can't be together physically?
yes, yes. So through this period of time, Jess, have you noticed more people reaching out to you for what you offer within your business to help them make this shift and this through this uncertain time? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, now part of it is not always like a paid kind of thing, but we recognized very early on that women needed help making the shift, right? Making the pivot. And so one of the things we did was created a very special thing that we were doing, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what the right rhythm is going forward, but this thing that we call Cafe Conversations. And it's essentially, I mean, if you really boil it down, a little mini mastermind, but it gave us an opportunity to really connect with our with the women in our community. We call it the Smart Girl community, and they were coming, every week on Wednesday mornings to bring forward business challenges or professional challenges that they were facing, and allowing the group to help them brainstorm and come up with new ideas.
Oh,
That's
nice.
so it was really rich, robust conversation where people were coming in confused, frustrated, just uncertain, and walking out with more clarity, a better plan for what they could do, or at least what they could test out. And then people would come back the next week, and there's just accountability there. So that was definitely a huge piece of our strategy for how to be in service to the
Yeah,
community. And I think
yeah.
the other thing was a workshop that we actually held this morning, that was really rooted in helping women step fully into themselves. And so, and we saw new people that, really weren't part of our community, but were invited by others. And so, I would say our business, our coaching practice has held very steady, maybe fluctuating up and down a little bit, but generally holding steady. But it's these other pieces that I think when I look back over this year, I'll say, those were some real highlights, because we were
Mm.
able to be in service in a way that we probably never would have at this point in time, except for the circumstances that we were in.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, through your business, you offer opportunities as far as one-on-one groups, um, basically, if you will, almost like self-evaluation via email and all of that. Is that, am I on the right page there, or?
Yeah. So we work primarily one-on-one with women who are at, different stages, people who are still in the corporate space, who are trying to figure out, okay, what are my next steps? Sometimes that's going to be stay in corporate, but really hone in on a different path. Sometimes it's going to be helping them really build a plan and make the right mental shifts to leave corporate life and move into entrepreneurship. So that's one group of women. And we also work with women who are sort of in that earlier stage of building a business, but who are struggling to get traction, and helping them really build out a plan, a solid foundation, putting the right systems in place, building their marketing strategy and the whole 9 yards. So we do primarily, our work is one-on-one. Well, I should say two-on-one, because there are two of us and one of them. So that's one thing. And then we do a lot of workshops. We find that that's a holdover from our corporate days. We love doing workshops and really just being in conversation and dialogue, even over Zoom, like we did this morning. Just, allowing women to see that they're not alone in their journey, no matter what stage they're in, and
Right.
really digging in together, working through it, supporting each other, getting the best ideas from each other. So we tend to do it that. We're at some point, I think we'll probably move into more group-based work, but for now it's primarily one-on-one and workshops.
Which is nice. I'm glad you're thinking of groups, because sometimes a woman, well, just things I've been through in the past for myself. I've always been very self-aware of when it's time for me to be in a seminar, or I'm kind of stuck. I feel real stuck, and I'm not one to go around the situation. I'd rather go through it, even though it hurts. If I go through the fire and then I turn around and I look back and go, oh, I made that a bigger situation that it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I know in times when I've been in a group, you hear from others that you're not alone.
Yeah.
That you think, oh my gosh, I'm probably the only one that feels this way. And it lays the foundation for you to feel safe,
Yeah.
to be able to share what you need to share.
Yeah. So I completely agree with you. It's interesting. We started out our business with a group model. And then we found more and more women were really wanting to dig in and be super personal. And I think there's room for both, right? Sometimes you really do need very focused one-on-one attention. But like you said, there's real power in recognizing that you're not alone. So that cohort model of being with a group of women and really taking a journey together, building real relationships, kind of pulling back the curtain so people can see in to your career, to your business, what have you, and where you're struggling. And then to know that they've got your back. I mean, there is nothing like that at all. And so I just,
There's power in a lot, right?
Oh my gosh.
Power
Absolutely.
in a big group pushing you forward.
Yeah. And holding you, I think the key is, right, they're holding you accountable. Like they're not going to let you, they're not going to let you back down. Like you committed to being in this group, and they are going to be with you every step of the way. And there's no alternative that replaces that.
Which can be hard sometimes. I know the group that I was involved in, there was a lot that I had to do, that I had to be accountable for a phone call at a certain time. I had to be accountable. Oh boy. That was a full year of self-discovery, but I'll have to tell you, changed my life forever.
Absolutely.
And the power tools that I got from that, just to be real honest with you, I use them every single day, every single day, even though, again, super painful in a way of, stretching like a rubber band.
Yeah.
Going into the unknown, being asked to do some things that I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like you're asking me to do what? But I'm excited about this, that this is what you all are doing, because I feel like there's, you hear the word a lot of coaching. And just to put another take on it, I love the word mentor.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what age you're at. I feel like as women, we are called to be there for other women, no matter where their age is. And I know in my own business, when I started my own business, there was nobody that had my back.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, it was so tough, because I was making all kinds of mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, I say mistakes, really, they're just steps that got me to where I'm at now. And I utilize those to encourage others that are around me of, listen, I will be your mentor. I will have your back if you need me to, because I wish I had had that at the very beginning. And I think people don't realize that truly it does make a difference
Oh yeah.
emotionally and personally to take on what they really want in the first place, which is to be passionate about what they want to do, provide for their family, because that's a trickle down effect.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's a trickle down effect to the people in your life, your children, your husband, whatever it is, your partner. It's a trickle down effect to your friends and those coworkers that you have around you that really make a huge impact.
Yeah. It's, Christy and I, my partner, she and I have talked many times about how, there's this idea of a mentor being this older person speaking down, not down,
Right.
but like to a younger person. And I can say with certainty, some of the best ideas I have had have come from people younger than me. Right. And I think when you open yourself up to the different perspectives, the different experiences that shape those people's lives and how they speak into you, I mean, you really can't go wrong there.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it's funny that you mentioned the word coach, because I have a love-hate relationship with that. And
Yeah.
I tend to prefer the word mentor because, to me, that walking alongside a woman in that journey
Totally.
is like more like a guide, like someone who's ahead of this person and knows the path and is helping them get there. Now, is that what a coach does? Yeah, probably. But I really prefer the word mentor like you, because it just feels like we're in it together in a way that's more reciprocal. Like
Yes.
we're still learning from each other. And I actually think back to my corporate days, and I remember having this conversation. There's a lady that I respected greatly, an executive. She was just amazing, and I kept thinking, I really want her to be my mentor. And I talked with my own boss, and she's like, well, just ask her. So I get in the elevator with her, which of course is just hilarious, because they're always like, you need an elevator pitch, whatever. And I get in the elevator with her, and I'm like, oh my God, it's her. I should just ask her. And so we're having this conversation in the elevator. And I said, I would really love to sit down and maybe talk about being in a mentor-mentee relationship. She said, it's funny you would ask that, because I have been looking for someone to be in a mentor-mentee relationship. And that ended up being one of the most life-changing experiences. And I had assumed at the time, right, that she's older, she has all this life experience, she's going to be pouring into me. But she was constantly asking me, what are your thoughts on this, about her career, about her business? And, that really shifted the way I think about these kinds of things, that we have to be in it together, and we can't have one over the other. It's got to be together. And so, ever since that experience a good while ago now, I have really leaned more toward how can we be in a mentor or supportive relationship, almost like partnership, as opposed to sometimes that hierarchical feel that you get.
Absolutely. That kind of brings up a thought for me. That class that I was going through, part of it was it's kind of escaping me now what it's called, but it was a physical course where we were actually going out on this course it was like trust fall and
like a
things
ropes course kind of thing.
It was like a ropes course. And one of the processes that we did was we were blindfolded, and there was a rope. We didn't know where the rope was going. And whenever the end was, you had to let go of the rope, put your arms out to reach out to basically touch somebody at the very end. So we were all kind of like let go at a certain time. And I remember this very specifically because of what I was struggling with myself, and that was to let people in.
Mm.
And I'm going along kind of cautiously, and the trainer said, Victoria, did you not understand the directions I gave you?
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, oh crap, what did I not hear? And it was like, no, I heard him. And then all of a sudden, somebody behind me came alongside me and helped me along the way of putting my hands, because I guess it brought up a fear. I couldn't see,
Oh,
I was blindfolded, and
right.
we're in the woods, and I didn't know where the rope was, and I didn't know where the branches, it was just that whole thing, going through your head.
Yeah.
And I'll have to tell you, she took me to the very end. The most profound exercise. I mean, I was weeping like a baby
Ugh, amazing.
because the aha that I had was I get to let people in my life to support me no matter what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And in those unknown times, even letting go of the rope and reaching out and hoping to run into the person at the very end that was there to give you like a hug, even that was profound, because again, it was like the unknown. Is somebody really there? Have they left me out in the middle of nowhere? That whole thing of reaching out. And I have to say, just that's how I think a lot of people feel right now. They fear can be very real to them. I mean, I think there's a place for fear. When you feel as a woman, we have a tendency to have that gut feeling of
Absolutely.
fear, of something's not right. And we need to listen to that because that's real. But then there's the fear and then letting it overtake you and you are frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're so frozen that nothing happens in your life.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced that with just whether it's a group or it's a one-on-one with somebody.
Oh yeah. I mean, I find, it's very easy to kind of get like very cerebral and say, well, just do it. It's not that hard, right? You're right. It probably isn't that hard, but there's a barrier there. And your story is just so amazing because a lot of times it's too difficult to do it on your own. Taking the first step, no matter what it is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something that we talk a lot about is this idea of this 4C model. It comes from Dan Sullivan, great thought leader, and he talks a lot about how courage, right? We think of courage as being this really amazing thing, but if you really think about what it takes to be courageous, it never feels good in the moment, right? It's like your stomach is like you're upside down on a roller coaster, right? It doesn't feel good. But when you get to the other side, right, that's when you're like, oh, I did it. You've got newfound confidence. You've got newfound capabilities. So sometimes making that step into courage requires someone else to help you do it. And I have
Totally.
found over time, at least for me, because like you, I used to not like to have people helping me. There was like this badge of honor that I was wearing around, doing it on my own. And, something my mother-in-law said to me a while back was when people ask, when you are unwilling to ask for help, it makes others feel like they can't ask for help, right? That they can't engage in I'm more than happy to help, but I don't want other people to help me, right? When she said, people need to be in this reciprocal relationship with you, it was just such a profound realization that by me having this badge of honor and holding firm to this illusion that I don't need help, it's making me less approachable, which to me is atrocious. Like I want to be I tend to be a very approachable person, but there was a barrier. And so she said, you have to allow people to walk alongside you. You have to allow
Mm.
them to reciprocate the help that you're offering. And when you
Mhm.
do that, it allows you to move, it allows everybody to move forward. And,
Mhm.
I think about that a lot because, I do like to be independent. I like to do things on my own. And at the same time, I know that I can't do it all on my own. And so,
Mhm.
for me, it's, sometimes asking for help, even though it's really hard to do that, but recognizing that it's not just me who is, it's not just myself that I'm doing a service to, I'm doing a service to the person to whom I'm asking, And so,
Exactly.
um, there's just something really powerful about that, about having people to
Yes.
be in the journey with you.
Mhm. And I think during this time is a time that is really needed.
Hmm.
I'm positive there's people suffering in silence. They're not, their fear is freezing them. They're not sure where to go. So one of the things I'd like to do, Jess, is I'll make sure that um, when this video goes out, that there's a connection, that people can connect with you and your partner at Two Smart Girls. So they really do feel like, okay, this is a safe place. This is a place that I can go to just get some support,
Yeah.
um, knowing that they aren't alone. And, there is a bright future here. You've just
Hmm.
been thrown something new, and that just means that here's our opportunity to really step up to the plate and probably be the person that they've always wanted to be in the first place, because we've been given this opportunity to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah,
feel it. I
absolutely.
really slowed down. And
Mhm.
at first, I mean, I'm going to admit it. I was a pretty nervous,
Yeah.
not working
Yeah.
for a month and a half. But
Mhm.
isn't it funny how, like what you're saying, if you really stop and look about at it, of why a lot of times happens. And here, because my mother-in-law passed away,
Mhm.
I was able to help my husband clean out his mother's house.
Yeah. Where before it would have
So
been a real challenge, right? Because
yes,
time was committed.
yes.
And yeah, I mean, I don't like to get all like woo woo philosophy here, but I do think there is something to things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And,
Mhm.
you know, you can constantly be fighting against it, or you can say, all right, this is the time we're in. And I'm going to embrace that. And at the same time, I'm going to choose how I want to think and feel about it. And, one of the things I was thinking about was really, um, you know, how this is not just an opportunity to slow down, but just potentially a really exciting time for
Mm.
families, for us as individuals, to really get a deeper sense of, what do I want my life to look like? I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen so many great quotes about, the life that we were living before, not that it was bad, but it was a lot. I mean, I don't know anybody whose life was not a lot, right? I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
mom of two middle grade kids. I mean, I lived on the highway in my car. And, I look now and I think, okay, that was a lot. And I'm not sure I want to go back to that life.
Yeah.
So there's just so much potential to define what you want your life to look like,
Mhm.
and to take baby steps. So are you going to make wholesale changes? Probably not. Like, kids are going to get back to activities. You're going to go back to restaurants. You're going to go do all these things. And at the same time, you get to decide how much, when, and what the boundaries are. And I think the sooner we get used to defining what those boundaries are and what our tolerances are in those, the better off we're going to be. Because at
Yes.
some point we will shift back to life as normal, even though it will look different.
Mhm.
You know, it's the pull of busyness will be calling, and so we have to have decided, this is what I want my life to look like. And
Exactly.
so that's I think the beauty. One of the things I love about our work is that we get to help women define what that is. And
Yes.
you know like I said at the very beginning, you get to write the ending. You get to decide how you want all these pieces to fit together so that it creates a life that you actually want to live.
Yeah. Well, Jess, thanks so much for just, this time of reflection, of just opening up the opportunity for women to think different about themselves in this period of time. And I really appreciate it. I know just myself, of us having this conversation, that it's reassurance to me as well too. Um, so, like I said, I'm going to make sure that my clients just know that there is a place that they can go where they can find a mentor that is a support that is there for them along the way.
That's
So,
amazing. I
yeah.
really have enjoyed this. This has really been so pleasant and lovely.
Thanks, Jess. I really appreciate this a lot. So thank you. And I'm sure my clients will be totally open to, checking your program out and all of that. And just let me know how I can be a support as well too.
Yeah, and I love that. And seriously, one of the things we say when we end any of our thing is just encouraging people to be present, be strong, and to be you, right? Be yourself. And if we can help someone on their journey, we would love to. If we can refer you to someone who can help you, we would love to do that. So, consider us at Two Smart Girls a safe place for making the journey for yourself.
Thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you.
All right, my dear. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, take care.